Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Don Labonte. This is the beginning of the 4th hour of learning conversation patterns. This particular template that you see on the left is found under the name of I Have Got To in the Teacher's Guide, where you can copy it for the students or place it on the backboard for them to transcribe. The first 10 to 15 minutes of every class I use in reviewing what we've already learned. Up to this point, we've learned 9 patterns which use do, combinations of do with the question, with the verb to be. We've learned 8 patterns, learning that question format. So today we're going to learn 6 patterns which are exceptions to this rule of using do and to be. The basic rule of thumb that I give students is that in a sentence, if can, could, would, should, or have with a verb is used, these go to the front of the sentence in order to make the question format. So, I have got to, there's a verb here, so the question is, have you got to? I have been, once again a verb. I have goes in the front. I can you? I would like to, would you like to? Should I, should comes in the front. So basically, can, could, would, should, have, followed by any verb, never uses do or the verb to be in the question-making process. There are 2 other printouts that you'll find in the teacher's guide, one entitled the past tense, the other irregular verbs, that I would print out for the students. The one basically shows, the top one, the past tense, shows a timeline using the past tense on, is it the recent past, distant past, etc. The irregular verbs are a common reference that they'll have to use. They don't have to memorize them all at one time, but it shows them the verb using the past tense, and the verb using the past participle. So these two here you may want to print out for them to give them that. The reason for it is in the 4th hour we're going to begin to study a bit about the past tense. I studied these 6 patterns together because they all have their own peculiarity. In the first couple hours, all of the patterns had a past, a present, and a future. However, in each of these patterns, it's a bit different. I have got to only has a present tense. There's no past tense. There's no future. I have been only is in the past. I have is only in the past. I can only has the present and the past tense. Can and could. I would like to is only the present tense. And I should is only the present tense. It does have a past tense, should have, but I leave that later when we study would have later in our pattern practice in about 10 hours from now. So I studied these together because there's a bit of quirkiness to all of the patterns. They're used a lot. The students have to be familiar with them, but the patterns have their each little idiosyncrasy. As we have seen in previous hours here, these little mixes that I have on the side combine about 50 examples, if you want to give them to the students or read them off to yourself, of 5A would include samples of these 2, 5B, these 3, 5C, etc. down the line. Although we've spent the first 10 to 15 minutes of this 4th hour in reviewing the second and the first 3 hours actually of the progression through the patterns, as we study these patterns, I study them together, but as we're studying them, I do mix them with the other patterns. You know, have you got to study? Do you have to study? Are you going to study? These are patterns that we've used in the past. Once again, we're trying to reinforce everything that we've learned so there's no wasted time that the students have that they need to remember what they've forgotten. We're helping them to remember all the patterns that they used and have learned up to this point as we progress through these patterns. So there's only 2, 4, 6 patterns that we're using during this hour period. So even at the end of the class, you should have time to review something else if you like. If you look at the teacher's guide, you'll find a variety of different how-to scenarios that you can give the template to students. You know, there's examples of how to say goodbye, to how to ask a favor, how to say thank you, how to apologize, how to ask for help, how to ask the price. There's a lot of different there's perhaps 10, 15 how-to scenarios, and I would combine one of those with, or 2 of those with, at the end of each of the classes for the student to print out and put in his folder. And once again, as we go through these patterns, we'll be constantly reviewing what we've learned. We like to keep the verbs down to a very few, only because we want to focus the students' learning ability and their focus on the patterns. The pattern is the most important thing here. So the first 2 hours we studied 9 patterns, 8 in the second hour, in the third hour, excuse me, and then this hour we've studied 6 patterns. Not a lot of patterns, but quite a different change in the feelings between the patterns. Thank you very much. In the 4 hours we've not only learned patterns, we've also reviewed the question forms with do, the verb to be, in our 3rd hour, and in this 4th hour, the exceptions that we find with making questions with can, could, would, should, and have, which is followed by a verb. These will be the only exceptions here. Otherwise, we'll be using do and to be with the question-making skills.